person or the other. And so this other person was punished. Maybe he was a criminal or he deserved that punishment or whatever. But he was punished instead of Jesus. So one of those things happened. It seemed to them that Jesus was being crucified, but actually he wasn't. Now, there's all sorts of debate and controversy amongst the Jews and Christians and what happened to him. And even though we might join into the argument and say, oh, we know this and we know that. We don't really know anything. And that's what the verse is telling us. They don't really know anything. Those who differ over him are steeped in doubt about him. We're all full of doubt. We have no idea what actually his fate was. They do not have any knowledge about him and only chase conjectures. Right? So if you want to swear by the fact that it was Judas Iscariot, well, on what basis? If I want to swear on the fact that no, it was just an illusion, on what basis? Right? There's no basis, there's no point in arguing about this sort of thing. So the Quran's kind of just telling us, don't chase conjectures about what happened to him. What you do need to know is he wasn't killed. وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ يَقِينًا, that they definitely did not kill him. Alright, so they didn't succeed in that. But that's the bottom line. That's what we do need to believe. That's what the Quran is trying to emphasize. So what happened to him? بَلْ رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَزِيزًا حَكِيمًا. Rather, God raised him into his proximity, and God is invincible and wise. Again, this verse, I explained the verse a little bit to you yesterday about what being raised up means. Again, we don't know exactly what this means. Some of the scholars think that it means that his station has been raised. Like through all this tragedy and all these challenges, one of the results, what do we say? The greeting for Ashura is أَعْظَمَ اللَّهُ أُجُورَنَا بِوَصَابِنَا بِالْحُسَيْنِ. May Allah increase our reward for this tragedy. The reason we say that is because a hardship, one of the compensations that we're offered for hardship that we have to endure is that Allah will lighten our burden. Right? So say if I have 10 sins on my record right now, right? If I fall sick today and I really suffer from some sickness for 2 days, right? One of the reasons why I get sick is that Allah wants to expiate some of those sins. And maybe two of those sins would wipe out my record because of the hardship I'm facing because of this sickness, for instance, or because a child dies, or because all the different hardships that we have. So one of the things that we get is compensation. Right? Because Allah is just. He's not going to inflict some hardship on you without compensating you justly on the Day of Judgment. Okay, so the scholars and some of the commentators then say that because Jesus had to endure such hardship with these stubborn people, the Bani Israel, and then the Romans and all these different things, so in compensation, رَفَعَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ, Allah kind of lifted him in status closer to him. Not that Allah's in a place that you can be closer to him physically, but it's a way, it's an expression. It's figurative. That doesn't really fit with this verse. Just read these two verses together, the previous one. But they definitely did not kill him. Rather, God raised him into his proximity. Right? If you read this together and read it like this, they didn't kill him, rather God raised him in station. Those two, they don't fit together. It's a non sequitur. A non sequitur is when you say two sentences next to each other, they don't fit. The puzzle doesn't fit. Right? The question is, what happened to Jesus? Okay, they didn't crucify him, they didn't kill him, but he's gone. He doesn't exist in our sight anymore. So what happened to him? Now, is the proper answer, God lifted him, raised his station? That still doesn't answer the question. What answers the question is that he's not here because God lifted him up. He took him away from earth. Right? That answers the question properly. So the rafa here, the lifting up of Jesus, is not just a spiritual kind of perfection. Rather, it's a physical removal of Jesus from earth and from this life. Now again, that's all we can say. That's all the verse tells us. Where he's gone, is he in the clouds? Is he in some other realm? Or where he is exactly, we have no idea. But what we do know is he's been lifted up off of out of this corrupt society that he's in, and he's been saved from the torment of living amongst them. Okay, so again, so we know our limits, so we don't say more than what we know. We just want to stick to exactly what the Quran is telling us, and what we can infer logically from the Quran. We can't infer more than that. Then this last verse from this section, it says, وَإِن مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا لَيُؤْمِنَنَّ بِهِ قَبْلَ مَوْتِهِ وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يَكُونُ عَلَيْهِمْ شَهِيدًا. Every single person from the people of the book will believe in Jesus And on the day of resurrection, he will be a witness against them. Alright, the key question in this verse is, whose death is referred to by the phrase, his death? Right, look at the sentence. Every single person from the people of the book will believe in Jesus before his death. Whose death? Right, there are two ways to think about this. Imagine a Christian. Right? The verse could be saying that every single Christian and Jew, right, before he dies, right at the last moments of his life, before his death, before that person's death, he'll somehow understand that Jesus is really not the Son of God, and he's really just a prophet, and he's really just, this and that. He'll realize the truth of who Jesus is. Whether it's an apparition, whether Jesus will come in spirit and actually show himself, or what it is, we don't know, in a dream, or what it is. But that could be what the verse is saying. So instead of his death, we plug in the Christian or Jew's death. Every single Christian or Jew shall see Jesus, will believe in Jesus before that Christian or Jew dies. Right? That's one way to understand the verse. Another way to understand the verse is that his death refers to Jesus' death. That every single Christian and Jew will finally believe who Jesus is before Jesus finally dies. Jesus isn't dead. Right? He's been lifted off. It didn't say he was dead. It said, Inni mutawaffika. I'm going to take you off of earth. It didn't say I'm going to kill you. Right? So he hasn't killed him or taken his soul away from his body. He simply lifted him off of earth, and we don't know where he is. But he's still alive. So, he's still alive, but in some other realm we don't know where he is. But we do have prophecies in the ahadith that he's going to actually return onto earth and live during the final days. Right? Imam Mahdi will make his appearance. He'll start his mission, and then Isa will also join him. Right? Jesus and the Mahdi together will lead this perfect government. The prophecies say that Jesus will actually pray behind Imam Mahdi. Right? Imam Mahdi will lead the prayer, or whether it's at the Kaaba or where, I don't remember. But Jesus will actually follow behind Imam Mahdi, and they'll pray together. Right? Indicating that Jesus is a Muslim. He's going to follow the prophet of his time. And the prophet of our time now is the Prophet Muhammad. Even though he was a prophet in his own time, right? If our prophet had been alive in Jesus' time, we could conjecture that our prophet would have followed his law, the law of Moses. But now that Jesus is alive at this time, when this particular law rules, then Jesus will follow this law and pray according to our Shaykh. His Shaykh, of course, that we listen to. Okay, so he's going to continue. It's like his life is on hold right now. Right? He lived to a certain amount, maybe 30-something years before, then he was lifted off. It's in suspension. Then he'll come back at the end of time and continue his life from then on. And then he'll die just like everyone else has. Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. Every single person has to die, including Jesus. Right? Even the Mahdi, everyone has to die. And so at that point, before he dies, the truth will be made known. That's what the verse might be saying. Every single member of the people of the book, every Christian and Jew, will finally know the truth before Jesus dies. It will be made clear to them that yes, he himself will declare that I'm not the Son of God, I'm a prophet, and this is my mission. Right? So these are two possibilities. When we just look at the verse, there's nothing really that convinces us that it should be one or the other. But luckily we have a hadith. There's a hadith towards technology. Andrew, can you help me? Where's Andrew? Recite this a little.